All right, welcome everybody to another episode of the Inside in Tennis podcast. Mitch Michals here, all part of the Believe Network. A lot of great content, a lot to recap in the world of sports, and of course on this show, the world of tennis. Roland Garros in the rear view, 2025 put on a show in Paris. And to break all that down with me now, coming back to the program, friend of the podcast, he was the number 4 player in the world, the British number 1, a premier commentator in tennis now with a lot to say on some of the classic matches at Roland Garros. Greg Rusedski. Greg, welcome back to the podcast. There's no shortage of things to talk about, so I'm excited to have you back on.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to discussing the French Open. I mean, it was just an unbelievable tournament. I mean, the women's event was actually more interesting, I think, overall compared to the men's. But the men's finals, what a historic final we had there. I mean, incredible. The longest ever match, 5 hours and 29 minutes against the number 1 and 2 in the men's. And the women's finals didn't disappoint either. Another epic with Coco coming through in a match that was so topsy-turvy. Again, number 1 and 2 player in the world. It doesn't get any better.
Yeah, it started, in all these tournaments, we talk about the phrase fortnight, the 2-week run up, and even qualifying. These events have become really 3-week events with the emphasis that qualifying's put on. But it seems from the outside, Greg, and you having been there, how your stay in Paris was, but there's always that build up, right? It starts slowly, but by that second week, when the players dwindle and when the locker rooms empty out a little bit, the magnitude can really weigh on some of these players. So how was your 2025 stay there, and did you feel it ramping up as we got to the medal round, so to speak?
Yeah, no question about it. I think, from the French point of view, Louis Boisson was the big story there. Getting to the semis, 361 in the world, the way she beat Pegula and then Andreeva back to back, but then ran out of gas in the semis against Coco. But Coco gave her nothing to breathe about. And for me, that was the story of the fortnight. In the women's game, all the way until the semis, until we had that magical final with Coco. And Coco's amazing. That I love that piece of paper she had there saying, "I'm going to be French Open champion," written down multiple times. Sabalenka was playing the best tennis of her life from really start to finish. I mean, she beat Jung in the quarters and then goes on to beat Swiatek, the unbeatable force in Paris the last 3 years. And then on the men's side, obviously, from a British point of view, we're a little disappointed with Draper going out there to Bublik, but, he's the real deal. He's developing all the time. Bublik played unbelievable. Sinner looked like a house on fire, looked like unstoppable the way he beat Djokovic in the semis. He started that way in the finals. We all know what happened, but then Alcaraz was up and down like he is, and when push comes to shove, the man stands up and finds a way.
It was incredible. I want to start there. The men's Roland Garros final. Carlos Alcaraz defeats Jannik Sinner, 5 hours and 29 minutes, longest final in Roland Garros history. One of the greatest matches, and we'll try to discuss towards the end, Greg, where it might rank and where it is historically speaking. But in the terms of this match, Alcaraz was down 2 sets in a break, battles back, saves 3 championship points, down love 40 on his serve in the 4th set. It had all the seesaws. It had everything you want, because even in set 5, when you thought Sinner might be defeated, given what went down in the 4th set, he breaks back and forces a match tiebreak, which was dominated by Carlos Alcaraz. So for Alcaraz to be the victor as that match was unfolding, Greg, did you realize that it was special as it went on? Was it building to something that I think we can all as tennis fans just appreciate, because it seemed like there was never a dip, 5 hours and 29 minutes, and these guys brought out the absolute best in each other.
Yeah, I think the beginning was a joke. The opening point from Alcaraz, having break points early on, not being able to break, then goes up to break 3-2, and you're thinking to yourself, okay, Carlos is getting his mojo. He's finally someone who's going to beat Sinner. Sinner knuckles down, breaks back, closes out the first set. I mean, the striking of the ball was frightening. I mean, I've never seen 2 guys hit the ball harder from start to finish. In the 5th, the power never went down. After that, Sinner dominates the 2nd set, looks stronger. Alcaraz nearly jumps back and loses the tiebreaker, down a break all of a sudden. Then all of a sudden he gets his feel, gets his rhythm. And then the match point returning 5-3, love 40. First point, Alcaraz plays a great point to save it. Sinner has his favorite shot, a second serve backhand return, misses it wide. And then a forehand second serve, misses it wide. And you're thinking, why didn't he go hard down the middle and then look for the first shot afterwards? It's so easy when you're commentating and watching it to say, why didn't you do that? But, he lives by the sword and dies by the sword. He wanted to go after it, but then Alcaraz comes through, wins the tiebreaker. You think up a break in the fifth, he's going to get the job done. Second win from Sinner, and then we finally get a 10-point tiebreaker where Alcaraz was like a man possessed in the beginning, and there was no way back for Sinner. To me, it's one of the greatest tennis matches I've ever seen. The crowd was back and forth, and the only time the crowd got behind Sinner was really when he was down a break in that fifth set. They wanted more, but then once it got into the final set tiebreaker, it was all Alcaraz going there. So, I mean, it was just an incredible match to be part of as a commentator.
I mean, especially for you, someone that played the game at the highest level, like it had to be something to watch this excellence of tennis on the highest level. They showed on the Turner broadcast, they showed Andre Agassi, who was presenting the trophy, and he almost looked like he was overcome with emotions watching these two guys just lay it absolutely all on the line.
Yeah, but I think what shocked Andre, there was one forehand that was hit from Alcaraz in the fifth. That was like Mach 5,000. It was like 100 plus miles an hour, but like back to back to back. And I think Andre might have been thinking the same thing of me. How does these guys physically keep it going, and how do they hit the ball continually so hard and have consistency? Because Andre was the first big power player after Lendl, but the difference between him and Lendl was he took the ball a lot earlier than Yvonne did. And Andre was kind of like the prototype for these guys. And then they've just taken it to another level. I mean, it's quite phenomenal. I think Andre was shaking his head saying, God, I'm glad I'm retired. And I feel the same way with those two guys around.
The point that stood out to me in this match, I mean, there's so many to choose from, but one that I highlighted was that 6-5 game right before the tie break. It was 30-all when Alcaraz got his serve just smoked by Sinner. And from like basically a full stretch, returns it back, gets it back with pace, is able to win the point. If he doesn't win that point with one of the insane shot making selections that we've seen, it's match point down against championship point down again. So I looked at that. I looked at some of the things that Alcaraz can do on the court. Some of his decision making, Greg, he goes bold because he is one of those one of one guys that can pull it off. It's just a special thing to watch a legend in the making, already 5 slams at 22, pull off the biggest shots at the biggest time.
I mean, it's incredible to think what he's accomplished so young. I mean, it's like synergy with Rafa winning his 5th major a day apart in age 22. I think 234 days, 22 and 233 days. I mean, it's just outstanding. And the only guy who's won more slams without a loss was Federer in the men's game, 7-0. Now he's second at 5-0, something Rafa didn't even accomplish. And if you look at it, there were some half volleys and shots he made under big situation that no other player makes. It's like the pressure gets higher and the more relaxed he becomes. And it's just, I wish, a lot of us players wish we had that talent. You look at Sinner, he blinked on the match points. There was no blink whatsoever from Alcaraz. And these guys are special because the fight doesn't stop, but it's also be able to be relaxed enough to execute those shots under pressure. And I look at Sinner and Alcaraz and I say, okay, Sinner is the favorite on all the hard courts events. You always give him one up, even though Alcaraz beat him in the U.S. Open in that epic match, saving a match point when he won his first slam. You look at the clay and the grass and you're going for Alcaraz. So this is exactly what men's tennis needed, a big rivalry after the big three. And we've got it. First major finals. Sinner's finally lost his first major final, and Alcaraz has distanced himself by 2. I think we're going to see these guys in many, many majors to come. It's going to be the new rivalry. It was Federer and Nadal, then it was Nadal Djokovic, and the new one right now is Sinner and Alcaraz. They're just separating themselves from the pack.
6 straight slams between the two of them on the trot. They're just dominating the men's game. And the big thing too, right, was the quote Alcaraz said, like, I want Sinner back. He does bring out the best in me. You see why. Like, and as you said, he brings out his best when he's pushed, when he's playing the very best. Greg, do you think that Jannik's going to take, is it going to hurt a lot coming off of a loss like this? Because on one hand, you're right there, you had the trophy in your sights. The other side, I know it's moral victories and a player doesn't want to hear that, but you're right there with the best clay court player in the world, and your body didn't fail you. Like, there were questions about his fitness and his match toughness. He played 5 hours, 29 minutes with arguably the best athlete in the world and stood toe-to-toe.
He did, but he still hasn't won any matches that go over 3 hours, 42 minutes. So that's the problem. The pickle juice was happening there in between changeovers from that stage. So he's got to start winning those 5-setters after 4 hours plus. And this is going to hurt him, but I watched him when he did his acceptance speech, and he didn't look tired. I mean, he
No.
looked like he was fresh. He was there, and it's going to hurt tonight. It's going to hurt for probably a week, and then he's going to get on grass courts and say, "Okay, I want to win Wimbledon now. I want to hurt. I want to hurt him back. I want to see Carlos back in that final." And I think he's got that mental fortitude. Just because, let's not forget, he was downhill ski guy before ski jumping. And you only get one chance, as he likes to say. In tennis, you get multiple chances, multiple opportunities, and it's
Yeah.
not done until the last point. And, we talk about this rivalry, and it's just going to go for many, many years. And I think he's going to bounce back, and he's going to want to hit back immediately, because he was going to go in the record books as one of the few guys who've won 3 slams in a row, having won US Open, Australia, plus having those 3 match points. And most of us mere mortals would have huge scar tissue out of that situation, but he's got 3 slams to look back at that he's already won. On top of that, he's #1 in the world. He's got a great team around him of people, and I think, Darren's been a great part for him mentally. And this will hurt. It's almost like Sabalenka, very similar story for Sinner
Yeah.
and Sabalenka, but I kind of feel they're 2 special people that they will bounce back. And don't be surprised if they both win Wimbledon.
Yeah, no, that wouldn't surprise me at all. It is just crazy to think that Sinner's had such a dominance on tennis. I think he's got like 3 losses to players outside of Alcaraz in the last like 2 years or so, but 5 straight now to Alcaraz. So the rivalry, which is great tennis, but Alcaraz has the hammer. There's no denying it after this win.
Yeah, he does, but he's up 2 slams. He's 8-4 in the head-to-head. But don't discount Jannik. And he was away for 3 months from the game. He looks
Right.
physically stronger. He used the time. Um, there's going to be many, many more finals to come. And when you're second best and you've lost the last 5, there's a
Yeah.
hunger within. He'll find solutions.
Tough one for the people that don't like best of 5, though. I think it was a tough one for them. I'm
Why
not
is
one
it a
of them.
tough? Why is it a tough one for them? I think best of 5 have got to stay there. I mean, to
Yeah.
me, it's probably the greatest final I've ever seen, and we can get into that discussion later. But for me, it had everything there, because even if you're at home, you're going back and forth. 15,000 people stayed in the stadium from start to finish. So if you tell me it's not working, I'd kind of disagree with you on
No.
that one.
Yeah, the short list of that discussion and thinking, right, like of the modern era of the 21st century, wherever you want to cap it. But you look at obviously Federer, Nadal, Wimbledon '08 is going to be on the list. And the one that I would put there with that would be Nadal Djokovic, Australian Open 2012.
Yeah.
This had every element of those matches. So if you want to say that it's too close to call, I understand it. But for me, having the drama, having the level be high the whole time, and having those match points, I mean, that's part of it, right? Championship points saved. I think it has to be in the discussion, right, Greg, for
Yeah,
greatest
no
match of
question
all
about
time.
it. I'd throw one more in there: 2019 Federer match points, Wimbledon Djokovic, because that was like an incredible day of sport. At the same time, England won the World Cup in cricket on the last run. Lewis Hamilton won the Grand Prix. I had it in the commentary box with me, and then you had Federer trying to win Wimbledon there at such an older age,
Yeah.
having 2 match points, and Djokovic hitting those return winners as well. So that one goes in the mix. But I think if I was going to make a call right now, for me, it was the greatest tennis match I've ever witnessed, just because of the physicality, the strike of ball, the sound of the ball. I mean, you get it at home on television, but you don't really, if you're seeing it live, you're like, how do these guys do it? And the hitting in the 5th set, usually go into the 5th set, even with Djokovic and Federer and Nadal, and you can see somebody getting tired, the pace dropping off the ball. The pace got faster at the end, which was frightening to see. And just the sound, I don't know where the game goes from here. I mean, how do you get any better than these two guys? They're so complete.
Yeah, and you made me think of something too in terms of comparing eras. It's really, the older I get, Greg, the less likely I am to really say who the greatest is based on different eras and comparing it. Because one thing I think we do know is that the level of tennis is going to evolve. There are reasons for that, obviously, that these players have superior training methods. They've learned from the greats before them. They can model their game after them. But I think watching this level and see where tennis has gone, you truly just marvel at how I found myself laughing at times by how good these two were and how great this level in this sport has gotten just in the last couple of years.
No, it is incredible to see the level. But I think if you go past to the past generations, all of those players would be great because they have the mind. So for
Right.
me, I look at it. Sinner, Federer, Nadal, Djokovic, Alcaraz, go back to McEnroe, Connors, go in the ladies, Chrissy Martina, go all the way back to all the greats of the game.
Hmm.
They all have the mindset. And the other thing is having a goal and a target to get to. So, Djokovic was chasing Federer, Nadal, got to 24. It's the most
Right.
slams of anybody. And the irony was Djokovic, when he lost as a 38-year-old, said to Sinner, I thought I played pretty well. And he still lost in 3 straight
He did
sets.
too.
And
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
considered the GOAT, but he'd
Yeah.
also given up 15 years. So
Hmm.
let's see where Sinner is at
Right.
15 years from now, too, and how many slams these guys get. So there's always that discussion. There's opinion. Do you go by numbers? Do you go by tennis? Rod Laver, had won the calendar Grand Slam on 2 occasions, and then he went professional during a certain period. So you can make the argument so many ways, but every generation gets better and better. And I'm watching this, and I'm like watching a video game. I feel like the way these
Yeah.
guys are playing. It's like you're going on your PlayStation and you're pressing right, left, and they have these fireballs coming out of their ground strokes. It's
Yeah.
just insane to watch.
I've heard pro athletes say about other, about the sport that they played when they see the newer era come up. Sometimes they say, "Is that the same sport I played? Did you have a
No,
little
no.
bit of that?"
Yeah, I feel like that because mine was serve and volley, chip and charge, quick courts, and these guys are just ripping the ball so hard. It's just a joke, and the athleticism is on a different planet. I mean,
Yeah.
these guys' movement is incredulous. The use of the drop shot, coming forward, that's something I felt Sinner could have done a little bit more, possibly, in the third, fourth, and fifth set at times. But the problem is nobody else plays like Alcaraz.
No, nobody does. Well, it's going to be great because we're going to see the adjustments the next time they play. What does Sinner work on? How does Alcaraz keep trying to have the hammer in this matchup? It's just a truly transcendent rivalry already. And yeah, if we see it in Wimbledon, which based on the recent history of who wins majors, there's a good chance of. Do you think that matchup changes? Do you like Sinner's chances in Wimbledon? Because as of right now, check the odds makers. They have him as a slight betting favorite, which shocked me a little bit.
I don't think it shocks me, but he's staying to
Yeah.
his routine. We had a
Yeah.
Spanish journalist we talked to, and he's off at Ibiza like he was the week before Queens. We saw all the pictures of him
Yeah.
partying after his celebration, and he's not shy to show those
Oh
pictures
yeah.
of himself. He's quite a
Yeah.
unique character because most of us tennis players are pretty straight. Like my generation was Sampras, so we were all like,
Hmm.
okay, serious. You don't befriend people. You go focus on what you do. You get the job done. He couldn't be more opposite. You look at
Yeah.
Sinner; he's the serious guy, even though he's
Yeah.
opening a YouTube channel he talked about. And then after that, you have Alcaraz, who's like, I'm going to go party. I'm going to have a good time, and then I'm going to get ready for it. And we saw that also in the Netflix documentary he did as well. So he's great for the game, different personalities, and I've put he's a slight favorite. The other thing as well is Sinner's worst slam has been Wimbledon. So that's where he's got to step up, but his game is better. His volleys are better. His drop shot's better. He's got to add a little variety. And from a British perspective here, we're all excited about Draper. A lefty, big serve. Is he ready to win it? No, probably not. But can he do some damage and upset somebody? Yes. Do I think he's going to get to the semis? Probably. And let's not forget about Djokovic. To me, that's the only slam I feel like he can
Yeah.
still win with this new generation is Wimbledon.
Draper got everyone's attention that year. He beats Alcaraz at Queen's Club and really starts the ascent that he really made strides in. So yeah, I can only imagine what it's going to be like for him, for Jack, when he enters the All England Club with the hounds of everyone supporting him. But
Well, that's gonna start from next week at Queen's,
yeah.
so don't worry.
Yeah.
He's gonna get the pressure, the expectation. The newspapers are gonna go crazy, and that's another thing having to deal with the social media, the papers, and being British. You're either you're either great or you're not. There's no in between the way we
Hmm.
write in this country. Why didn't you win Wimbledon? Why aren't you Andy Murray? What's taking you so long? That's the pressure he's going to have to deal with because you don't get
Yeah.
your normal journalists that follow the tour all year round. You get the whole country involved,
Hmm.
and their thought process is different than it is from people who follow the tour week in, week out.
Hey, speaking of Andy, what do you think of Andy Murray Queen's Club Arena?
Yeah, no,
I
no,
saw him out there. It was this a women's event there for the first time in a long time too, and
it,
Murray on site. And it is fitting that the arena names their court names it after Andy Murray, one of the great sportsmen of his country.
well, I think he's won the most men's Queens titles of anybody. So I
Yeah.
think he's got the record for the most titles at Queens. He's had an unbelievable career. And the women's event so far has been fantastic. Obviously, we had lots of Brits winning with Raducanu, with Bolter, with Watson all coming through as well. And it looks really, really good. The question I have is, week 2, how are the courts going to play? That's my only concern. They say they've done the science. They should hold up fine, but it looked pretty beat up after
Did
day 2.
did they have a meeting years ago where they're like the Queens Club tournament directors and staff where they like, we have to have the biggest trophy in sports? Because that
I don't
trophy
know
is
what it is. It's
massive.
always been that, even before I was born. If you look at the old pictures
Yeah.
of the winners, it's always been that big. I guess they're going off the Champions League sort of trophy.
I love it. It's great. More with Greg Rusedski here on the Inside in Tennis podcast. We're on the grass court season, still recapping Roland Garros, and on the women's side, it was the American Coco Gauff, who Americans now 2 for 2 in slams this year with Madison Keys Aussie Open title. But it's Coco Gauff who defeats Aryna Sabalenka for her second major, second surface to win, where she becomes the youngest since Maria Sharapova to win on multiple surfaces. And Greg, it was a masterclass in competing down a set, which doesn't tend to happen in the history books recently in terms of coming back in a major final in the women's game. Coco found a way to break down Sabalenka, who quickly unraveled in a lot of regards. And Coco gets through, wins the major. And at her age, and what we've talked about, much maligned at times, but the potential has always been there. Coco Gauff is the newest member of the Two Slam Club.
Yeah, I mean, an incredible performance mentally, physically from Coco, and just tactically. Her game wasn't at her best for Coco. Her forehand is still a weakness. Slice passing shots we saw, not getting up to the ball, but it was fascinating to watch the two different mindsets on court. Sabalenka 4-1, 40 love up. You're thinking, okay, this is done in an hour. Very blustery conditions before the match started. That's what I said. If it gets blustery, Coco's got a real shot to win this. But Sabalenka's emotional control wasn't good enough. She was complaining to her team, yelling, wasting energy. And even though Coco didn't win that opening set and lost it 7-6, I think she did the damage there because she extended it, made it longer, made her hit those extra balls, won the second pretty easily. And then the third again was just so resilient. And I think what impressed me is it was like two different characters, one getting cross, one getting angry, one having the firepower. But Coco never showed any emotion of negativity throughout the whole match and just accepted everything. And to win a slam, you've got to win 7 matches. And, we had the complaint at the end of the finals of Sabalenka, this is the worst conditions I've ever played. This is the worst tennis I've ever played. And to me, it's like, no, this is a slam. These are 7 matches, and every day is going to be different. It's not going to be perfect weather. They're not going to put a roof on because it's windy. So now, Gauff deserves the victory. She
Yeah.
deserves to be champion, and there's no excuses. Maybe you didn't feel like you played your best tennis, but come on, give Coco more credit because that was just an astonishing performance mentally from Coco to find a way to win that match.
Coco just put her head down and worked, and there's a lesson in that for everyone to get what they want to accomplish in life. The competitor that Coco is shine brightest. And yeah, you bring that up about the perspective Sabalenka had, which was a little unfortunate in a lot of ways. You can ask these 20-time major champions, the big 3 in Serena, Martina even, how many times do you think you were played your best in a major final? And I bet you the answer would surprise a lot of people out there. They just found a way to compete and get home with the title. So that's something. And I will say this too, Greg, like I'll give Sabalenka some benefit of the doubt. It can't be easy to have to talk immediately after a performance that you think is terrible. I know you're laughing because maybe you have some experience in that regard.
Don't worry. I've stuck my foot in my mouth on multiple occasions throughout my career, so I know how it feels.
Yeah.
But I kind of think the comments about Swiatek was a bit much, though. For me,
Right.
that one was the one that was a bit much. And I like the honesty of a player. So I think also you got to remember it's not her mother tongue. She's Belarusian, so maybe she doesn't always put it in the right manner, even though her English is exceptional. But there's ways to say the same things without saying them, if that makes sense. Like just giving more credit to Coco, and I think Coco just handled the situation so well. And she's mature beyond her years the way she speaks when she broke on the tour as a 15-year-old beating Venus at Wimbledon. And she's just gone from strength to strength. And the good thing is Imagine if we see that in a Wimbledon finals again without those comments. The 1 and 2 player in
Oh.
the world in the women's game as well meeting.
I'm at a point now where I'm looking at this matchup from a different lens, and that's maybe where we're all kind of like spoiled. Like we like drama and we like intrigue, so maybe those comments weren't the worst thing.
No, no,
But
I think it's great because
yeah,
at the end of the day, remember the generation of McEnroe, Connors, Lendl, Chrissy Martinez. You got an honest opinion after the matches. Maybe it's quite refreshing.
yeah, it certainly could be. For Coco though, especially you mentioned how mature she is beyond her years. It takes a lot to be able to handle the expectations heaped on her. 15 years old on the scene. Everybody's talking about how good you can be. Why aren't you better sooner? They're breaking down her forehand. There's all this stuff in the ecosystem, and she's just able to fight through it, stay positive, and show up in a big match. So that's remarkable stuff there. The last thing on the Sabalenka front, Greg, and I wanted to ask your opinion on this. She beats Iga in the semifinals. Now, hindsight is 2020, but do you think maybe that there was a letdown after a match, maybe building up that Iga match to the point of that was the one she maybe had circled for a while and having another match on top of that she wasn't quite prepared for?
Well, I think it's the back-to-back also with Jung
Hmm.
in the quarters because you can't forget that she was the Olympic champion having won in Paris. So that was Swiatek back-to-back, and she would have respected Coco. But it was the toughest conditions of the tournament to play, no question about it. So that was because she was the better player going into the finals, but that doesn't matter. It's what happens on the day. So I don't think there was any letdown. I mean, she was
Mhm.
4-1, 40 love, so there was no letdown and just absolutely destroying Goff, but Goff just stuck in there. So I don't think that's a valid
Mhm.
reasoning that there was a letdown because considering how difficult the conditions were, the first opening 6 games, but Coco managed to hold on that
Mhm.
game, found a way to hold, and then things slowly turned around. The belief came in there because it was a tale of two stories in the beginning.
Yeah.
Sabalenka was playing great. Coco was very nervous, as sometimes to be expected, but she found a way. And for me, I think Goff's the mentally strongest tennis player on the women's tour at the moment.
Two major titles for Coco. They both came over Sabalenka, and they both involved coming back from a set down. So that's maybe not a scenario that Sabalenka wants to find herself in. But as you mentioned, Wimbledon, where the women's, we talk about contenders, right, going into a major. Women's field going into Wimbledon, maybe the most unpredictable that we could think of because Iga not exactly atoned on grass. And just look at the last couple years of who's won Wimbledon. It's featured some real long shots.
Yeah, it has done, but also we haven't heard much from Rebecca this year. Obviously, she's won the title. Owns, you're hoping she can get some magic going again. She's a long shot, but obviously Sabalenka, as she said, I'm going on holiday now. I'm going to Mykonos. I'm having some tequila and I'm getting some gummy bears in my system to forget about this. She will be so disappointed with her team that she's going to put it together. And then Coco's full of confidence. That's her breakthrough tournament. So there's multiple things in the women's game. And also let's not forget Maddie Keys. Maddie
Right.
Keys on grass is another one that I think who won the Australian Open, played lights out against Sabalenka finals. So that's 2 finals in a row Sabalenka's lost. And she's got one of the biggest leads as world number one with no slams. So she wants to change
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But for American tennis right now, you couldn't ask any better in the women's game.
Yeah.
Maddie Keys, what a great story. Coco Gauff. So I think Sabalenka will be back in the finals. But the question is who? I'd love to see Goff or
Yeah.
Madison Keys in there. That to me would be a fantastic final.
Maybe someone like Mirra Andreeva. It didn't go well against Buisson in that match, but another young player. So we'll see. A lot of options on the women's side.
Yeah, there are. And Andreeva, it's a question how is she going to bounce back, from losing to Boisson as well.
Hmm.
That's another question for her. But she's only 18.
Yeah.
We expect a lot of these players.
Couple of thoughts on some players that I wanted to get your opinion on, and we mentioned their names, but what do you think is the next step? Because I don't think it was a bad necessarily tournament for Iga Swiatek, but she won the event so many times that it's basically title or bust. But Iga in that third set against Sabalenka, it was not pretty. We know
Yeah.
that the grass has been a tough surface for her. What do you think the next couple months look like for Iga?
Well, if I look at Iga's game right now, from the back of the court and the returns, as good as anybody in the world. There's not much of a change there. The serve to me is just getting pummeled. So like Sabalenka steps on the first, steps on the second, and players are going to start doing that to her, and that is going to make her feel uncomfortable. So for me, if I'm looking at her, it's almost like I think she needs someone to really get that motion tuned up. And there's a few things in there which aren't that difficult to change, but nobody's managed to change them. She has to get where she can get the first strike after her first serve and find a way to neutralize on the second. And you just got to continue to get better all the time. And that's what Sabalenka has done. That's why she's number one. She just keeps on getting better. She keeps on adding data analysis. She's got her serving coach there. She's got her physical trainer. She's got her hitting partner. She's got her main coach. And she keeps on adding to this team to get better. And I feel like Wim Fissette is a great coach. And, she's got to find a way to get that serve better to grow her confidence. And I think grass is going to be really difficult. Yeah, she can get to the quarters, but she's very susceptible with the extreme grip on the forehand on the court. And she doesn't feel comfortable moving there. So for me, the tale of her year is going to be what happens leading into the U.S. Open.
We finally saw some of the good signs of Iga going into Roland Garros. The lead up to the clay wasn't there. I agree with you on Wim Fissette. I think he can do great things with Iga. It's going to take time, and yeah, grass might not be the place for it, but we'll see where it goes. The last player to discuss on this list is the aforementioned man, Novak Djokovic, 24-time major champion, loses, and I agreed with him. I thought he played well against Jannik Sinner, had no sets to show for it. First time we've heard him talk like that, though. This could be it. This could be my last Roland Garros. Are you buying into that as serious as maybe some of the other people are? And where does Novak go as he looks at Wimbledon, a tournament that you argued could be the last best chance for him to win a major?
As long as he still feels like he can win a major, I think he stays around. If he doesn't and he thinks, I can't beat Sinner, I can't beat Alcaraz, I think he actually prefers Alcaraz on clay over Sinner because he gets more time on the ball. It's not so bang, 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 bang. And there's always a few little lapses from Alcaraz. I think Wimbledon, let's not forget, last year he got to the finals on one knee, which was a feat in itself, and then he won Olympic gold. So that was only a year ago, let's not forget. And the main goal last year was Olympic gold. He would have said 0 slams, Olympic gold. That's all I want. I've cleaned up everything else in my category. I think he wants that magical number 25. So as long as he feels he can win a major, maybe he might not play the French in the future, even though it's the most matches he's won on the clay courts. If he believes he can still win Wimbledon, he's going to stick around. If he doesn't believe he can win another major, I think he'll say, okay, I can't win another major. What's my goal? Do I want to beat Connor's records? I have to win 10 tournaments. How many years is that going to take me? Am I going to play 250s or 500s? Probably not. I think he'd probably want to spend time with family. So I think it's like Federer. When Federer realized I can't win majors, my knees aren't right. I lost to Hurkacz Love in the fifth, which is not un-Federer-like. He just closed the door. Murray and Nadal, they took a little bit longer to figure out when they wanted to shut the door. I don't think Novak will take longer. If he feels he can't win slams, I think he decides to go away. But I still see him this year and possibly next year, still in contention for Wimbledon.
He's still playing at a level that some would say top 5 to top 10 at minimum.
Yeah,
so it's not like he's dropped off beyond recognition. It is just tough to beat those two guys at the top. They're the standard right now.
Well, the thing which I watched the first set live courtside with Novak and Sinner, and you never used to see Djokovic go to the drop shot so early.
The same thing. Yeah.
And it's like, why are you going to the drop shot? You're just telling the guy, I can't stay with you toe to toe. And Djokovic used to be the guy who's like, put the hatches down. I'm staying toe to toe with you. You're breaking first. And it's pretty normal. He's 38. The other guy's 23 and can run all day. So, unfortunately, time doesn't help us all. It's not like Tom Brady where you're in the pocket and you got a whole defensive team around you and you get a timeout half the time. Unfortunately, we don't get any of that with tennis.
Yeah, I thought the same thing. It was, when have you seen Djokovic tap out of rallies like this? But it makes sense because Sinner's just always there and has the legs to move. Exciting to see where we go into Wimbledon. Greg Rusedski, Inside In Tennis Podcast. I'll leave everyone with this. The primer for the start of grass season. I know this is kind of where this was your time to shine too. So I know you're excited for the shortest season of the year, but how are we going into grass and how excited should all the tennis fans be that we're getting to change surfaces like this?
Yeah, I think we should be like really excited because I feel like the number 1 and 2 player on the planet in men's and women's game are ready for rematches, possibly in the Wimbledon finals. British point of view, Raducanu is playing better, so that's exciting for us bolters. There's a big fight between 3 players for British number 1, and Jack Draper is going to be the man of the moment. 4th seed for the championships, number 4 in the world, career high. It's an exciting time of year. The grass, I was happy in the last century about it because it had bad bounces and was quick. And then from 2000, it changed the whole grass to rye. So
Yeah.
it's super high, higher bouncing, no sliding. So we get more ground strokes. But this time of year is just incredible. I was actually at Wimbledon with a friend of mine hitting a few tennis balls today,
Oh,
I should say. And Dimitrov was already there getting ready for the tournament. So for me, this is the best time of season. It's the history. I call it
yeah.
the Wimbledon's like the Augusta for people who love golf. It's always been the number 1 in my opinion.
I agree with you there. And just a final note, I want to see some of these young next gen guys that are looking as good as advertised. Well, how do they perform under the bright lights or daytime light, natural light of Wimbledon? What's Fonseca? What's Menchik? What are these young players, and sometimes arguably their first Wimbledon? What are they going to look like? And so I want to see the next wave of players, how they handle the moment, the prestige.
Well, Mensek for me is the one that I think really suits his game at Wimbledon. Fonseca, I think he's still a little bit more of a clay courter and a slow hard court player. I think he's going to still need to transition. And the guy that I think is a little bit of a dark horse, even though he's not the next generation, is Shelton. You've got to look for him with his firepower, a lefty. I always love a lefty, and also Draper, who's already up there. But Mensek is the real deal. I mean, you don't beat Djokovic in the finals of Miami the way he did, and he's got an absolute cannon, so he should be a natural on the grass courts at Wimbledon.
And he did the violin celebration when the French crowd was on him because that's what Novak would do. So I love that
Yeah.
too. Greg Rusedski, always a blast. Always a blast. One of the premier commentators in tennis. Thanks so much for giving me your time, and can't wait to chat again with you here on the Inside In Tennis podcast.
Thanks for having me.
That was Greg Rusedski. This was the Inside In Tennis podcast. We're on all your podcast platforms: Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeart, you name it. Just search Inside In Tennis podcast. Subscribe, leave a nice rating or review, and make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel at Mitch Michals for full video episodes and YouTube shorts as well. Thanks again to Greg Rusedski. Thanks to everyone for listening or watching. We're back next week for grass court tennis to break down. This was the Inside In Tennis podcast. I'm Mitch Michals. I'll talk to you soon.